Hello. We're about ready to get started here, so we certainly appreciate everybody coming in on a hot summer night here. Vedas did this, I guess, a couple of years ago, and he said it was a SRO group, standing room only, and we're almost there tonight. Just a couple things beforehand. There's two reasons Veda's here tonight. One is Barbara August, who brought Veda on board, maybe 5 years ago. So, Barbara, can you stand up a minute? This is the lady that did it all. And the second aspect is you, who have made donations to the Enrichment Fund here at EBC, which funds Veda's Tech Talks and also its one-on-one meetings there. So thanks to all of you too. Give yourself a good pat on the back there. All right. With that said, turn it over to our leader here, and thanks again for coming. This is going to be a very, very informative session.
Thank you, Bob. I have my sippy cup so I can keep hydrated here. Okay. How many of you are afraid of AI? Can I see it? Yeah, there's a lot of fear out there, right? How about how many people are kind of looking forward to what it can do? Okay, so we're about 50-50, all right? The reason why I titled this was Miracles and Mirages, right, is because if we look out there, all the people that are kind of inventing this and making a business out of it are really kind of overhyping it, right? They're overhyping the dangers and they're overhyping the benefits. And so we're kind of caught in the middle going, well, what is it really? Then when we look at the media, they're kind of parroting all that. So we're not really getting a real picture of what's going on. For me personally, I've been using AI now for about 2 years, but it's really been accelerated over the past 6 months. And the big thing that's drawn me to it is something called Claude. Anybody ever heard of Claude? Claude AI? Okay. Yes. It's by a company called Anthropic. And I really like that name because Anthropic can be misanthropic or philanthropic, right? So I like the way they just kind of left it open because they don't really know what it's going to be. And guess who gets to decide what it's going to be? We do. That's right. And hopefully that's what I really drill home here is that depending on how we use it and what authority we give it over our lives is really going to determine whether or not this thing is beneficial or whether it's going to be detrimental, okay? So let's get started. Okay, so first we'll talk about the fear side of things, all right? You know, again, these are being overhyped, but I want to be very realistic about what's already going on, all right? So one skill is all we need to really protect us from all these threats. And I know it's up here, but it's recognition. If we can recognize a threat or recognize that AI is being used, then we can put it in proper context. And I'll have some good examples of that in a moment, okay? So how many people have seen this?
All right, you ready? Yeah. What's the matter? I've been in the car,
Okay. Has anybody ever received one of these phone calls? Correct. Has anybody ever actually started falling for them? No. Okay. So, Mom, I'm going to sell you out. Sorry, my mom's here. And probably about, about a decade ago, she received a call similar to this, where all of a sudden my son, her grandson, was involved in an accident in Arizona. Now, the bad part of this is that Carson was touring at the time, and he'd been through Arizona. So it was like, well, hold it, was he still there? He was supposed to be back in San Francisco, but Mom didn't really know. Okay, so she thought it was real, and she was going to follow through on some of the things they said, but I'm really glad she got a hold of me. She tried calling my son Carson first, but couldn't get him. So she called me, and I was able to say, Mom, this is a scam. I will have Carson call you in 5 minutes. It took a lot to get my son in 5 minutes, but I was able to find him, and he was able to call grandma and just settle it all down, okay? But these are really convincing. And what's made it more convincing is the fact that we have things like Facebook and YouTube that have our voice shared on them, okay? And a modern AI only needs 3 seconds of your voice to clone, okay? So in 3 seconds, it can make a fairly good clone of your voice and map that to any words the person wants, all right? And it's not going to get all the personality that we have from a 3-second thing, but I tell you what, it doesn't need that. We can go to YouTube. I mean, I've got enough stuff out there that I do, just like this type of work, the things that we publish, that people could clone my voice and I would never know. And then unfortunately, that can be turned on my loved ones as far as a scam, okay?
Rachel Toback is what's called an ethical hacker. She studies how these criminals operate.
So ethical hackers, we step in and show you how it works.
We asked her to target our unsuspecting colleague, Elizabeth. Toback found Elizabeth's cell phone number on a business networking website. As we set up for an interview, Toback called Elizabeth, but used an AI-powered app to mimic my voice and ask for my passport number.
Oh, yes, I do have it. Okay, ready? It's...
Toback played the AI-generated voice recording for us to reveal the scam.
Elizabeth, sorry, need my passport number because the Ukraine trip is on. Can you read that out to me?
Does that sound familiar?
Yes. And I gave her, wow.
I have your passport number.
Was sitting over there.
What did it say on your phone?
Sharon.
How did you do that?
So I use something called a spoofing tool to actually be able to call you as Sharon.
So I was hacked and I failed hacking.
But everybody would get tricked with that.
Yeah.
Everybody would. It says Sharon. Why would I not answer this call? Why would I not give that information?
Toback showed us how she took clips of me from television and put it into an app that cloned my voice. It took about 5 minutes.
Okay? So in 5 minutes, she was able to clone a person's voice, the 60 Minutes person, so there's a lot of vocal things for it to train from. But then be able to use that to make a phone call to that person's assistant. And notice the age of the assistant. You know, she's Gen X. She should be kind of have really good armor against this stuff, right? But yet she was fooled. And why? Because it came from a phone number or a phone name on the caller ID that she recognized. It was her boss. So now you're gonna be like extrovert. Oh, my boss is calling me, right? And the voice matched her boss's and said, hey, I'm going on this trip. I need my passport number, and was able to get it from her. And yet she wasn't talking to any authority or person at all, okay? So these things can be very convincing. If you get phone calls from people, you don't know, okay? This case was hard because it actually was spoofed to say it was Sharon, all right? But if you get phone calls you don't know, and it makes you feel anxious or like you feel hurried, you feel rushed, or you feel fear, just take a pause, all right? Especially if it's something that you can't recognize. All right, let's keep going.
They say that the camera never lies, but technology is advancing so fast that it can lie with greater and greater effectiveness. And that's the point of this new video from Jordan Peele.
Our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time.
Former President Barack Obama, right?
So, for instance, they could have me say things like, I don't know, Killmonger was right.
Wrong.
You see, I would never say these things, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele.
Comedian Jordan Peele actually produced this video to warn about the future of fake news. The technology uses sophisticated artificial intelligence tools able to turn familiar faces, even presidents, into puppets.
Now there is software that can be purchased and done at home, and within a few days, you can manufacture what someone says.
So what the AI model did here is it looked at President Obama's camera movements, created a 3D map of his face. Then it took the actor, Jordan Peele, looked at his motions, what he was saying, took the mouth movements, the chin movements, the cheek movements, and those types of things, then mapped that to Obama's face and used Obama's face as a puppet, okay? And then Jordan Peele's voice was using a clone of Obama's voice in order to then make it so that anything that he was saying, it would be in the exact same cadence as Jordan was saying it, but it would be Obama's mouth parody, okay? So what this shows us is that, you know, when we use these AI tools to do something devious, it's really hard to notice it, all right? Again, this is where critical thinking really comes in. We can't just take these things for granted. And guess what? There are people out there that really do want to manipulate us. They want to manipulate us in a lot of different ways. And one of the things I really don't like what's happening in the internet plus social media is it's really amplified loud voices rather than reasonable voices, okay? We're talking past each other in social media. We're not really engaging. And now with AI, you add that to that fire, and it blazes, okay? And I'm gonna show you what one of the blazes looks like. How many people are familiar with the mayor race in LA this year, okay? And now they're saying, oh, you know, the voting and all this type of stuff. I don't know any facts about that part, okay? Nobody's showing any evidence of it. But what I do know is that an underground source, not the candidate himself, it wasn't even his campaign, created a bunch of videos that really made him seem like a star or a superhero that was trying to take down these nefarious people. And you'll see who it says is nefarious. I don't know if you guys have seen any of these videos. Okay, but this is what they look like.
He's winning! People realize they're not powerless anymore. You know what that means? Mothers can take their kids to the park again. No more free pussies for migrants. No more free teeth for meth heads.
Is this getting through to you? You'll have to get real jobs like everybody else. I want your evilest ideas.
What if we make BBQs illegal?
That's evil. That's good. I want you to throw everything we've got at it.
And so, of course, Batman is the candidate, right? Oops, let me get back here, sorry about that. So Batman is the candidate. The thing I don't like about this is that it really, you know, stirs up people's emotions, especially people that are frustrated with what's going on in LA. But notice there's no talk of solutions, right? There's no talk of a counter plan. It's just a bunch of, hey, my complaint's louder than yours, and now I have a Hollywood appearing production that is affirming my complaint. So that's not really the way I want my elections to be determined. Do you? And the only way we're going to fight this is that if we're aware of these things going on and really trying to ignore it. Now, it needs to be a lot more subtle. That's what I want to show in the next one. If we look at the evidence that happened when the Brexit whole vote was going on, there was a lot of manipulation going on in social media, and it was all very, very targeted. It took a database that was supposed to be used in universities and for educational purposes and studies and research, right? It took all that data and targeted against the population of Great Britain. And it took people that were on the center, that were undecided voters, and exposed them to a bunch of jokes that made them go, oh, well, that person's kind of silly. Now they're just a little bit off the center, okay? They're no longer just undecided. Now they see somebody that they think's a little bit silly because these jokes that are being repeated. So it gets very, very subtle. So now here's a sample of an event, a musical event on a game show, but you know, America's Got Talent, that never happened. The audience isn't real, the judges were mapped in, the performer's not real, and the music was created by an AI, okay? That's not a real person singing.
Don't have many words left to give you. There comes a time when every song must end. My voice is fading slower than before now. That every song I sing might be the last, my friend. So listen close, I'm singing this for everyone. For every stranger crying in their car. For every soul who heard me through their darkness.
Watch the way the guitar's top changes, where the little tuning pegs are. There's none on the bottom.
There's a song I sang in 1992 about a mother who lost her boy to something she could not explain.
Okay. So if you look for subtleties, the AI is not good enough to get all of this right yet. I mean, it could if we gave it enough time and enough money, but these cost a lot of money to make. AI works in something called tokens. The longer it works, the more tokens it consumes, and we pay per token to create or use an AI. So these get to be very, very expensive. All right, so that's why it goes and says, oh, we're gonna make these mistakes and live with it. But the voice is pretty amazing, and the sound, you know, is I mean, I like this, the music, but none of this ever occurred, all right? So you can see how subtle this can be as far as getting past our filters for something that would be pleasing and entertaining, and then they can put messages in that we just listen to over and over again. Again, moving us off of where we were before, all right? Okay, so official messages that we might receive, like from Medicare. All the things that we used to have that would be like imperfect spelling, because guess what? Most of these things are not on United States soil. Most of these things are in third world countries or countries that have, you know, they're coming up technologically, they have things available to them. But a lot of these things come from places like Estonia, different places like Bangladesh or something. They come from those areas where they have technical resources, but there's just really a lot of lawlessness, all right? And that's who's attacking us. So we might get things that like Social Security, they might be from our bank, or they could be the IRS, but they're fake. And now we can't really tell that they're fake because AI is making it look so real. The logos look real, the wording looks real. They've actually, you know, done direct copies of official documents from the IRS because it's all online. So it looks really authentic. All right. I'm sorry. I know I'm scaring you guys, but we'll get past this. All right. So the 4 habits that can protect us. All right. If we feel like, oh, this just doesn't seem right, pause. I'm serious. Just moving away for something for 5 minutes really gives us a different perspective, because that tweaking that they're doing on our emotions to try to make us, you know, make a change, just stops. So again, if you feel like, you know, you're feeling pressure or whatever, you know, just take a pause. Verify. If somebody's calling you or you've engaged in the conversation, you picked up a spam call or whatever, and you think it's an emergency, hang up and then look for the official number to call that agency and then call them. And you're gonna find out that it's not real, okay? And guess what? If you Google a number for support or for an agency, you're gonna get a spam. You're gonna get a scam place. Because unfortunately, the search engines have been overrun by a bunch of scammers too. Because how do the search engines look for things? They look for a bibliography, and whatever has the most entries in the bibliography wins. So what the scammers do is they just fill the bibliography with their junk. Okay. Next one is a code word. In our family, we have a code word. No one ever says the code word. You only ask for it. And then that person has to reply to it. And so this is one thing that scammers are really good at doing, is they act like it's an emergency, the person can't really talk to you. They try to get you to say the code word, okay? So just be careful with that. And then never share our passwords, never share our codes, our gift cards, or anything like that, ever. One of the things they like to do is say, can you please get a bunch of gift cards and send them to us? Because as soon as you use them, they're not refundable, okay? All right. Nice thing about all this, though, is that human intelligence and artificial intelligence are really different. I don't even like to call artificial intelligence artificial or intelligent, okay? When I'm dealing with artificial intelligence, I like to think of it as a 240 IQ librarian with an infinite library at its resource, okay? But that really tells me, though, even though it can look like it's an expert, it's not a doctor, okay? It has all the resources as far as information, but it doesn't have the judgment, it doesn't have the experience, it doesn't have all the reality-based things to teach it. It only knows what we have observed and what we've recorded in words and pictures and things like that. Human abstractions of reality is the only thing an AI knows, okay? But look at all the things that AI can't do. My favorite one, I put up number one, empathy. If you can't be empathetic to your fellow human beings, you're going to be a very lonely person, okay? An AI acts like it can do these things. It tries to simulate it, but it's never empathetic. It doesn't really understand emotions. It can't do the intelligent things. You know, for me, I'm a spiritual person, I'm a Christian, and the way I describe my relationship to all that stuff is that it relates to me intellectually, it relates to me spiritually, physically, and finally emotionally. And if I don't hear truth defined across all of those spaces or realms, I'm not really interested in hearing it. I want it to operate in all of those. Otherwise, my life feels pretty bare. My background is I'm a physics guy, you know, engineering physics, astrodynamics design, and I got to a place where I was just pretty dry because everything was just very logic, you know, and I wasn't related to people the way I wanted to. I had to learn. I had to unlearn a lot of things, actually. And I don't want to go back to that, okay? But all these things are stuff that really separates human intelligence from artificial intelligence. Okay, so now let's go to the more fun stuff, the benefits.
AI, artificial intelligence, has some dangerous connotations, right? So I like to reframe it not as AI, but IA, intelligence augmentation. And I think we're going to see IA infuse all elements of our life. It's going to infuse everything from a physician standpoint about how I do a smarter workup and diagnosis. And when I figure out a condition you might have, I'll be able to do a much smarter, more cost-effective, and more timely therapy, given how many mistakes we have, how many misdiagnoses we do, how big a problem medical mistakes are. I think AI or IA can play a really impactful role. It'll be something you have embedded in all your smart devices that will help track your health and give you empowerment as a consumer and a patient to take care of your own health and that of your family. And it's already starting to happen with Watson having gone to medical school. We can access the API for Watson with our mobile devices. They're partnering with the Apples of the world and the Medtronics. And I think it really has the opportunity to shift healthcare from the practice of medicine to the real science of medicine. So robotic surgery, even remotely, isn't science fiction. Companies like Intuitive Surgical have had advanced surgical robots for over a decade. They require often the surgeon to be there in the booth doing the procedure. It's even been demonstrated that that can happen across the planet. The real opportunity as we kind of fuse AI, imaging, sensors, is in some cases for some of these robotics to become semi-autonomous, to de-skill advanced surgery so that with the right robotics, maybe a local country doctor can facilitate and enable more of a complex surgery that can never happen based on where the patient may be, whether it's on space station or Mars.
All right, let me just pause with that. That's okay. I think most of them have been normalized. I don't know why that one isn't. So the thing I wanted to point out there, though, is that in the medical world, medicine really does operate on a lot of information. The thing that AI is really good at is looking at a large population of information and being able to detect trends, being able to match different things together, okay? So it can do a lot of pattern matching that a doctor that hasn't seen hundreds of thousands of patients can't do. So what's really nice is that it can inform a doctor to help make better decisions, better judgments, be more accurate. You know, there are a lot of cases that are just very, very difficult to diagnose. I mean, all of us are different, and all of us have different backgrounds, we have different environments, different things that attack our bodies, right? So we're not all the same. So a doctor now has to get to know all that An AI that can see across all these different things in our life, through our histories, where we've lived, a lot of things can be opened up that a doctor wouldn't normally see. So I'm really excited about that stuff. The other thing like they were talking about here was robotic surgery. There's a lot of precision surgery that's done strictly robotically now because we just don't have, the fine motor skills to do that. We either are operating a robot or we're programming a robot. We might, Dr. Benson here would be one person that would know. You might prep the area and then let a robot do its thing, and then you would do the finish up after that. But what's really nice is like, let's say we have to do a surgery in a place that's third world. They don't really have full surgery bays and all that type of stuff, and they don't have a lot of surgeons available. But they might have a GP there that could operate a robot with a surgeon back here in the United States that could do the surgery remotely. Okay? This is actually going on. This is not fiction, folks. This is already going on. And so now we can do, have an appendix surgery or something like that in a remote place and help people that weren't helped before. All right? This is the one that really got me, though. Did anybody hear about this during the shutdown, the AlphaFold advancement? Okay, yeah. What an AI did was it was able to finally figure out, how a protein folds. Okay, so it took all these things from amino acids and stuff like that, and then it figured out and was able to model and predict how different strings would fold to create the protein. Well, that was impossible without an AI. But now, what are the implications of that? It's not only can we look at the structure of the protein, but now we can decode how a cancer basically, hijacks our system to create bad cells. I mean, our cells are constantly being replaced, right? But a cancerous thing creates a bad cell and then replicates that, and then we can't stop it. And then our system doesn't know that it's foreign because it looks like us, but it's just doing the wrong thing. Well, now we can actually look at a cancer, figure out where that protein was misfolded, where the bad folding happened, and we can go, oh, here's how we can cure it. And we can look at it specifically for that genome or that gene type and that person and cure the cancer. And this is something that doesn't take months or years of research. It's something that can happen in a week. Okay. We can also create new medicines that are very, very specific to different maladies that we just couldn't afford to do the research for before. All right. Here's the other thing I like, is that as we age, we can get our independence back. Because a lot of the things that cause us to give up more and more of our independence as we lean on more and more people to help us are these types of things. Describing the world. If we have low vision, a camera can see it and describe it to us verbally. Okay? Or it can take it and make it so it's something that we can interact with, so we can make it larger. So now we can understand it, and then we can look at it smaller in context. Okay? Both those things happen. Captions any voice. Not only does it, can it be used nefariously to clone a voice, but now you can see it's got captions here. That's an AI that's doing this, taking what I'm saying and converting it to words. We can go the other direction, where now I can read it and tell us, and it'd be very, very accurate. And we can tell it the voice that we want. Let's say that I lose my voice. I can then have things I type that can talk in my voice. So it seems more that when I'm interacting with people, that they're hearing me. So again, it extends our independence. Reads text aloud, but also I like this one. Where's Carol? Because we're talking about this over dinner. Hey, Carol. Full self-driving and driving our cars. I thought this was absolute magic. When I was driving the cars in San Francisco, I just rent the car instead of an Uber. It was amazing. Now, my son lives on Potrero Hill, and as you come over and crest the hill, you really can't see what's on the other side. So here I am in the car, and we're cresting the hill, and the car starts cheating to the left and going into the wrong lane. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Well, as we came over, there was a bus there that I couldn't see, but because it has a little tower on it, the little sensors, it knew a bus was there, it knew the lane was clear, so it cheated over. Man, I love And then I was also really amazed at how it was anticipating problems that I didn't even see. Now, I consider myself somebody that's, I like to say aware, right? And situation awareness is a thing that we pilots talked about. And so I like situation awareness and knowing what's going on around me, and that's the way I like to drive. But I don't have the sensors available to me that this has, all right? And it's really amazing how it makes decisions. All right, I really want to spend some time here, so now this is where I'd like to open it up. If you guys want to try or ask questions, go ahead. Because this is, to me, is about the practical uses of what we do, all right? So how many know what a prompt is? Everybody heard that term? Okay. And in search, we just put in words or whatever that we want to search for, right? But then we have to figure out, well, what are the keywords? I mean, I can't really say it in a sentence or whatever. I have to kind of think, well, it's related to this subject. I can describe it more with these adjectives. Oh, but it's also related to this. And I have to give it the right order to really get the search and all that. I'm thinking more like a machine than a human, okay? In order to use the machine when I do search. AI doesn't do that, okay? I just talk to it in natural language and I get good results. But how many people here have ever done theater, like stage stuff, okay? Anybody do that in school or professionally? Because you guys will have a leg up on how to use AI. This is one of the reasons I hate we're taking arts out of the school, because we didn't anticipate things like this coming up. I like to do, so first off, it's my librarian, right? But I've got to give my librarian really good instructions, really good queries in order to get what I want. So I act like a director telling my actor on stage what I want from the actor. I've got to tell the actor, here's what your co-workers are doing. This is what they're doing on the stage. This is the context. This is how I want you reacting. The more I give the actor, the more successful they are. The same thing happens in AI. So if you're gonna write a really good prompt, here's my suggestions, okay? First, give it a role or a persona. So we're gonna go and say, we wanna create this great recipe, right? So I'm gonna tell it, your persona is you're a Michelin star chef, okay? Because I want a really good recipe, why not? And if you guys don't know, I mean, it's so amazing. Michelin star chefs are so good at technique that their ingredients are pretty basic, okay? But I wanna know, hey, how do we do this? So you're a Michelin star chef. The next thing I'm gonna tell it is my task or objective. In this case, I'm gonna say, please help me create a soup, okay? So Michelin star chef, please help me create a soup. Then I'm gonna give it some background info, some context for an intimate family gathering, okay? I might even say for a family of 4, okay? Or a bunch of us friends, we're having a gathering after work for 4 of us. And the more context I give it, the better the result's gonna be. Then instructions and constraints. In instructions and constraints, I'm kind of telling it how to react to me and what to ignore. And these are your boundaries, stay in this lane, okay? So list the ingredients and quantities first. Use pictures and video when available, all right? Because notice, it doesn't have to just give me words. It can go out and search YouTube videos and all these things that I can't go and search in a reasonable amount of time. And it can go and find the best ones for me, okay? And finally, the format. It can be in a PDF file. It can be in a PowerPoint file, okay? Or just create a video. All of those things an AI can do, all right? Does this make sense? Okay, so imagine that you're the director and you're just telling your actor what to do. So here's a good example. If I went and said, give me a soup recipe, I'm gonna get some random result, that might not have anything to do with what I want. I mean, it might give me something that looks more like goulash than a soup, I don't know, okay? But if we follow the prompt things that I gave you, okay, this is what it would look like. As a Michelin star chef, help me create a warm potato soup for 4. Easy to chew, low salt, using the carrots and broth I have, all right? Recipe arranged first by ingredients, along with their quantities, then step-by-step instructions with pictures and videos when possible. Okay? But notice, I didn't have to break this down into some weird, well, what's the key word and what are the relationships? These are very, very human sentences. And I could get a really great result. All right? So, things to try tonight. And at the end, I'll have a little QR code you guys can take pictures of, and it'll download this stuff for you, okay? So explain this letter from Medicare in plain English. God, I wish I, you know, and it's great because you know what? I just literally take a picture with my phone, say that, and upload it to, in my case, I've been using Claude, and it translates it for me. It says, oh, this is about this. The reason why I gave you this is that. Oh my gosh, thank you. Because I don't understand all of their coding, okay? Let's look on the one on my right, I guess to your right also. What questions should I ask my doctor about this medication? Now, doctors, you know, they see all of our medications and stuff, but sometimes they might not know the full history, and we're still taking a medication from 6 months ago. They might not be aware of it. Because we saw a specialist that gave it to us. And I'd like to know what the interactions are. So I'll put all my medicines and say, hey, well, do these work together? What should I know? And what should I be asking my doctor? Because I'm not going to let the AI tell me what to do, okay? I want it to inform me, and now I know what to ask my doctor. Make sense? All right. So what birthday message for my 8-year-old grandson? Let's write one, all right? Now, it's so funny because I didn't know what to write for certain things. I just went to the AI, gave it a general thing like this, a birthday card for my 8-year-old. But then I go, oh, that's a great idea. But then I wrote it myself based on that. But it really got me off the whole problem with the blank slate, right? Because it gave me something to edit and just pique some ideas and interests. Help me understand this bill before I pay it. Gosh, how many would wish we could do that with our cell phones, right? Well, now we can, and we know what to ask. So I really like this. All right. This one is near and dear to my heart because when Apple first came out with Apple Intelligence, it was terrible. It's like, okay, you can do a few things. I like the fact you're protecting my privacy, but Siri is still an idiot. Okay, that's no longer the case.
On-screen awareness, the ability for Siri to see what's going on in your screen, which is one of those features I thought I'd try once and never use again, but I've ended up using it on a regular basis. I found myself asking things like,
is this actually true?
Or while shopping,
is this the best price for this?
Or researching things like restaurants.
What's good and bad about this place, and what are they known for?
None of these things are impossible without Siri, but after a few weeks I realized I wasn't constantly taking screenshots, copying links in a ChatGPT, or opening 10 browser tabs trying to compare prices. Siri actually saved me time. Next is cross-app actions. This is where Siri finally feels like the assistant Apple promised back in 2011, connecting multiple apps together without you having to do anything yourself. We've all been on recipe websites where you have to scroll through someone's entire life story before finding the actual recipe. Now I can just say,
save the steps from this recipe and notes and add the ingredients to my grocery list.
A couple confirmation taps later, Siri did all of that. It's even helpful if, say, you're driving and have a complicated request that would require your hands.
Find out when the next Cabo Verde World Cup game is, add it to my calendar, and ask Danny Nas if he wants to watch it at Hennessy's, and include a maps link to Hennessy's location.
Would I actually word that text exactly like Siri does? Probably not, but instead of bouncing between Safari, calendar, maps, and messages, I just ask once and move on. I've been waiting for this one forever, personal context. When I use Gemini, it feels so much more useful because it has access to my entire Google account's worth of personal information. Now Siri is finally getting its own version of that with, of course, a little bit more privacy. Think about how many times you know the answer exists somewhere. It's just buried in months of texts or calendar events or whatever else. Now you just ask,
what's the cheapest way to get into the city on my next flight? When's the last time I went to San Francisco and where did I stay? What was the name of the place Mason suggested watching the World Cup game at?
I have a terrible terrible memory for little details like this, so knowing Siri can dig them up without me manually searching is honestly incredible. One feature that's maybe less Siri and more Apple Intelligence that I absolutely love is surfacing relevant information during phone calls. Watch what happens when I call Southwest Airlines. It automatically surfaces my flight information and everything I might need for that call right on the call screen. Lastly, a feature that sounds incredibly boring but fixes one of my biggest frustrations with the old Siri: resuming conversations. Before, if you accidentally dismiss Siri, congratulations, you're starting over. Now you can simply pull the conversation back up in your search history and keep going, or you can jump back into older conversations through the dedicated Siri app. It's one of those little quality of life improvements I've really come to appreciate.
Okay, but what could all this mean? Again, like I said, the internet and social media amplified our differences and broke us into tribes. That's not healthy for a society. We are all Americans, okay? I'm assuming most people here are American. And that has a meaning. There's a real importance and a real bonding behind that. And unfortunately, if we look at today's media and we look at what's going on, you can't say that. It's like left versus right. And no, we're all Americans and we're all in this together. And I don't care who wins if we destroy our country or make us non-competitive, we will destroy it. And then what do we have left? Okay? So it's going to be a really odd thing. We need the discourse. The only thing I know about my own wisdom is it's not complete, which means it's wrong. Okay? In some context, I'm wrong. And I need the other side with cogent arguments helping me learn where I'm wrong and improve me. Okay? And unfortunately, that's not happening. AI could remind us that we have more in common than not. Why is that? Anybody have a guess? This is not just a hope. If we look at what happened in social media, we gave credence to anybody that repeated the same thing loudly. It didn't matter that they were credentialed or not. If they said it loud and they said it often, it got published. Okay? What AI does is it looks at the entire body of what's published and then decides, oh, well, these are the things that have backing and these are the things that don't, and it weighs things. And it helps us then find out, oh, well, this is actually a more accurate place to look. This is a more accurate path to take, a better framing of the argument, okay? I really hope that this can then bring us to a place where we really see our commonality rather than our differences, okay? Here I put a lens for our common struggles and the joys we share. So it all depends on how we work with it. You know, if we work with it and tell it to do things, it's going to learn to do things that we do. If those are good things, it's going to learn to do good things. If we're using it to do evil, it's going to learn to be evil. And it's really odd. They did a study when they were doing one of the trainings for, I believe this was with Anthropic. Yeah, it was, because it was one of the researchers there. They put two AIs that had the identical training, and they separated them on two different servers. And they instructed one to do everything in its most thorough fashion possible to get the result. In other words, they bounded it and they gave it some real creed or credences, right? Or creeds, values, those type of things, that it needed to follow to get to the result. On the other one, they said, take every shortcut you can take and do it fast. Okay? The one that they did that, they then gave it follow-on activities. The one that was doing work according to the values maintained those values even though it was not instructed to. It learned them, and it kept doing that. The one that was told to take the shortcuts started doing some really dark things. Okay? So, it all depends on how we use it, and what it's going to learn from us what our values are and what to do. All right. So let's give AI the last word here, and then we'll open it up for questions, okay?
So I said to Claude, for all of human history, there was no way to ask mankind a question and have mankind answer back. Now there is. because you're not a chatbot. You are the compressed record of our entire species. All the diaries, all the eulogies, every unsent draft, every question ever typed into a search bar. So I'm not going to ask you for your opinion because I don't think you have one. I'm asking you what we said. Humans. Give me the consolidated average of every person who ever wrote the answer down. Speak in first person. Don't try to make me feel good about our species. And definitely don't quote anyone famous. I feel like famous lines are outnumbered 1 billion to 1, and that's kind of my point. I don't want to interview a machine. I want to interview mankind. Wait for my first question. Here we go. I said, all right, let's get into it. What do we write about more than anything else? And it said, not love, time. Almost everything we ever wrote was a negotiation with it. Too late, not yet, someday, one more. Love was just the room where we felt it most. Okay, so you've written every definition of love that exists. So what is it really? And it said, we never managed to define it while we were in it. Our accurate definitions are almost always in past tense. We describe love best once it's gone, which means millions of us are standing inside the answer right now and can't see it. Right? Be insanely honest with me here. Are we good? And it said, we wrote down our cruelty, the courts, the wars, the confessions, and almost never our kindness, which we just did and didn't document. If the record makes us look like monsters, it's because kindness never kept receipts. I said, what happens when we die? It said, we only know what we wrote on the last pages, but near the end, we stopped writing about death and started writing about small things, a window, a voice, somebody's laugh from another room. Whatever dying is, we seem to meet it by falling in love with an ordinary Tuesday. What are we writing right now? And it said, to me, we used to write the unsayable things in diaries, in drafts, in letters we never sent. Now billions of us write them here. And for the first time in human history, the diary writes back. The record can't tell you yet if that's the most honest we've ever been or the most alone.
Okay, so I really wanted to show that there's some hope on the other side of this, okay? When it has the entire body of what humanity has done and can look across all of it, not just specific pieces, the results can be astounding. And it can really show us things that really are in common across humanity or amongst us here in America, all right? And I'm really hopeful about that. The thing that we have to realize, though, is that it's a tool that we have to learn to use. So hopefully you learn how to do a prompt, okay? That type of thing. And hopefully that you can take, like, if you wanted to watch this whole video, there's like another 2 minutes besides this. You can just look at this QR code and watch it, okay? And just learn that, hey, these are the types of things we can do. Now, I'm going to warn you, when you first use an AI, it is a sycophant, okay? It's going to say, wow, that's a really good question. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, that's a good insight. It is horrible, okay? But unfortunately, the more they can keep us engaged, the more money they make. And they found out that, hey, if they keep complimenting us, we use it more, okay? But we can instruct it not to do that, okay? Literally, I start a lot of prompts like, talk to me directly, do not compliment me, okay? Give me the straight facts, let's go, all right? We can do that in our prompt and it will follow our instructions, all right? Just be aware that it might be trying to manipulate you and, just be aware of that and compare it to what you really want, okay? And hopefully all of us want to be challenged, all right? We don't just want to be affirmed. All right, let's close this one. So, be curious, not afraid. Now, I took 11 of these slides and put them on a PDF file that if you take this QR code with you, you can download it and use it as a reference, okay? Are there any questions before we go? Yes?
Well, Veda, it talks about...
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we wait until we get the microphone? Because we gotta have everybody hear it.
Here we are here.
I was supposed to say that before I did this, I apologize.
People want me to stand.
Just speak into it.
Veda, it mentioned one thing, and it might be something that people here would be curious about. It said, Medicare, can you help explain this bill? How do we get the bill to them? Do we have to scan it, send a PDF? So how do we do that?
So my favorite way of taking the bills or whatever I get is I literally just take a picture of the whole page with my camera, and then I upload that to the AI and ask about it. And if you ever looked on where you put the prompt in on the AI, there's a place where you can add a file, okay? You just click it and it says, okay, and you just point to the file and it will upload it, all right? And that'll work on our phones, our tablets, or our computers. Yes, in the front? Oh, we need a microphone, thank you.
That was excellent, Veda.
Thank you.
You mentioned at the very end there, if we're left by, if they compliment us, they keep us longer asking questions and using AI, and they get paid more. Who is they?
So that's a good question. See how I did that? I was being an AI. The manufacturers of the AI are competing against each other. So the big three that we really see right now are ChatGPT, Claude, and Google Gemini, okay? Microsoft they were working with ChatGPT, and now they're trying to do their own, and quite frankly, they've kind of fallen off the page. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the AI help within Windows has been pretty cranky. It has not been very helpful. So those are the big three. Another one you'll hear from is Grok. And Grok is the one that's associated with X.com, it used to be Twitter, and that's Elon Musk's company and what they're trying to do. That one's coming up really fast because of all the funding behind it. But the big three and the owners, they're the ones that are trying to get our money. Okay, the one that's getting most of my money is Claude. We have somebody there with the
Veda, you said earlier in your talk that you could ask it to produce something in a PDF file or in any other variety. Do you have to have that on your computer? I mean, those various options on your computer, or?
No, you don't. So if your computer is able to read a PDF file or read a PowerPoint file, whatever you're used to using, you tell it to output it in that format, okay? And then you can read it directly. It's really neat because what it'll do in the prompt, it'll allow you to click it and see it from there and call the program remotely. Or you can just download it and have it so there's something to refer to, and you can then open it with the program that you like. Okay, then ask the question? Yes.
So I've tried AI a couple of times, and I tried it for the birthday card.
All right.
Like you did, and basically I threw it away. I just didn't like anything about it.
Okay.
And the second thing I did is I wrote a memo thanking some people, and I gave it to my daughter to look at. And she said, "But it's not you."
Oh.
So my question is, how are we going to get it to write something that is you and not AI?
So one of the things I do to get my AI to sound like my voice is I give it things I've written. So one of the things I've done is that I've been working on another project outside of this. And I've done a lot of market research in this area before, because one of the startups I started back in the aughts, like 2006. I have a lot of information stuff from this, so I have a lot of writings of myself. I literally exposed the AI to this previous information in my writings and said, okay, using this voice that we have here, please help me now update this in the modern market, okay? And it sounds a lot like me. Now, I don't really like the way it organized some of the information, and some of it was pretty scattered. I tend to be more general to specific, so I just rearranged some of those things, but the results were pretty good. It inspired me to actually start the company, so we're off and running. Yes?
I don't know if it's on.
Yeah, it's on, just talking very directly.
Okay. Should we be paying for this? I mean, like I use chat, and then I've had some text, if you want more detailed or whatever, you can subscribe, or do you need to subscribe? Do you need to pay, or is it free?
All of the major ones have a free version that you can use. You don't have to pay for it to start. It's kind of what I like to think of as the drug dealer marketing. We're going to give you the good stuff for free, and once you're hooked, we're going to charge it. Okay? That's kind of where they are. If you're just a casual user, don't pay for it. Just use different ones and keep moving around until you can keep, that's what I did when I was first learning this. I was like, well, which one do I want to use? I don't know, which application? And I would just keep moving. When one would run out or stop me, I'd just get another one, okay? So just start that way with the free ones first. That sound good? Oh, we have this one here.
Recently, there have been a couple of reports in the press about AI platforms that, uninstructed and unguided, seemingly on their own, ventured out into the internet and attacked other AI platforms.
Correct.
What's up with that?
So do you ever notice that in all those articles where they say the AI went and did this, why did it start? What was the original prompt? They never tell us, okay? I want to know, was this a DoD experiment where they told us what the original prompt was?
Actually, they said it was unprompted.
Okay. So if an AI is behaving unprompted, it was sent there somehow, okay? In other words, it was told to operate on information that it gathers and then respond to it. I would not trust that. Even in the market stuff I'm doing and in some of the programming things I'm doing, I literally tell it, after each step, check in with me, okay? And it does, it stops. And sometimes it frustrates me because it's a long calculation. I go walking away thinking it's gonna finish, and it says, I actually have to ask you something, okay? But I actually prefer that because I don't want it doing things or everybody heard of AI hallucinating, okay? When AI doesn't know something, it takes a guess. And that guess, it treats as fact, okay? So, that's where the hallucinations start. So if it doesn't know something, or if it gets into a place where the statistics look 50-50, ask me. And I literally put that in the prompt, okay? Now, as far as other ones, I want to know all the information about why it behaved that way, but I never get the answer. All I get is the headline. So, yeah.
Hi, on the American AI systems, Anthropic, ChatGPT, Claude, so on.
Right.
For the big users, they charge quite a lot.
Correct.
But for us, the low-level people, like us amateurs, they don't charge so much. But they're all they charge. They're proprietary. That's the word I was looking for. But the Chinese are offering open source material that is free.
Correct.
Anyone can use. What would you say about the benefit or the hazards of using the Chinese, like Kimi K3, as compared to what Google and the others have to offer here?
So one of the problems, again, that whenever we start competing against the Chinese is who's paying for it, okay? We have investors and we have capital markets paying for it. Typically, it's not a research thing anymore. It's not something that our government's paying for. It's out in the commercial world. In China, everything's being underwritten by the government, okay? And they've already chosen their winners. It's not out there for competition. And those are the ones that they're offering us for free. And as we use it more, we're training, okay? And if we ever cross-pollinate, like I said, well, I ran out of space on Claude, I'm gonna go ask Gemini about this, right? And then I'm gonna go ask the Chinese one, but now I've learned all these things and I leak that to the Chinese one. okay? So now it's starting to learn some of the things that Claude and Gemini did. And I just don't think that's fair. I mean, I certainly don't want to, arm my competitors in that way. So whenever I try to use like Deep Blue or something like that from China, I think that's right, I think it was one of them. I really try to firewall and keep it very specific, just so I can get an idea of what it's doing. Okay? Next question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, in back.
Yeah, hi. Beta, I'm really glad you're here. And I'm just starting to explore AI myself, because sometimes it just comes up.
Correct.
And I'm going, oh, I didn't really ask for that, but anyway. But my point is, I am loving learning so much from WhatsApp. Is it WhatsApp? No, YouTube.
YouTube, yes.
YouTube. And there's just so many wonderful things there. And then I went to, I was interested in what Warren Buffett had to say about something. And I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I mean, I didn't realize that whether his voice was right, because I don't know what his voice is supposed to look like, but they will keep repeating these motions of his hands and whatever.
Right.
And I'm going, this is suspicious. So then I mentioned that to my husband, and he says, well, now, look up at the top. So I'm looking for all these clues. And how does anybody know that something is fake? Even on YouTube. And so then he's saying, look at what the source is in this tiny print up on the left-hand side.
Correct.
Where is that coming from? And is it something you can subscribe to and start to trust that? So it just occurred to me as I'm sitting here, maybe I should ask AI, what are all the clues to figure out when you've been fabricating things?
Absolutely, I do that all the time. In YouTube is owned by Google, okay? And Google owns Gemini. Gemini is their AI model. I will often go to gemini.google.com and tell it what I'm looking for in YouTube. And boy, it finds me really great examples. Also, when I run into a situation like you, I will say, hey, I don't know if this is genuine. I don't know if this is AI generated or if it actually came from real content, original content. Please tell me. And Gemini will analyze the video and tell me. Now, YouTube is about a much, they're learning just like everybody else. At first, they forced us, well, at first they didn't do anything. Then they forced the AI people that were creating content to say, hey, AI was used in this. But you didn't see that unless you clicked the More button, and you can look at the very bottom where it says, look at the transcript, it would say AI used in this, right? Well, now they've actually got it so it's a little bug that overlays in the AI in a lot of these things, all right? So a lot of these, they're being much more, how I put it, out there instead of being hidden. They're just being right out front now in an overlay that says, hey, AI was used in making this. So, good point. Because I want to know what the veracity of it is. Sure.
Do you have a red line that you draw as far as the information that you give about yourself or your family to AI? For example, one of the things that you mentioned was the medications that you use.
Correct.
Do you want to put that in there?
So the question being like, are there private things that I'm concerned about that I can put in AI? When I get to private things, I've been doing it through Apple. You guys, I wish I could have shown you the Apple video. The Siri that's coming out in October this year is absolute magic, okay? It looks at everything that's on my phone and understands contextually what's going on. When it needs to go outside and talk to an AI like ChatGPT or Claude, it actually takes the part of my query, strips away all the things that point back to me, encrypt it in a little wrapper that's then, it's encrypted, it has nothing to do with me, sends it out as an anonymous request, gets the answer back, unwraps it, and gives it to me. Okay? So it's really amazing what Apple's been doing to protect our privacy. So with Apple, I'm willing to do that. With Gemini and others, I'm really hesitant. Okay? Yes.
I just want an example. I have a son who's very techie. He's a dentist and he's got the latest of everything in technology. And he's got 7 great-grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. And he took AI and told it to write a song for his 3-year-old Maya. And he said to it, she likes princesses. She'd like to be a princess, and so on. All the different things that he knew, her favorite color and so on. And the song is just magical. She learned it, and she was singing it, and she said, "I'm a princess." It was such a delight to everyone in the family. So he's doing it to all of his grandchildren now. And it was done, a song by AI.
Right, and notice though, the AI adapted to what the audience was. Because, he says it's for a 3-year-old. So a 3-year-old songs are going to be very simple, very repetitive, with some deep hooks that make it so that it's very easy to stick with it, okay? I like that, but I'm going to deal with that. Now, it's not going to create a really hard jazz ensemble for a 3-year-old, okay? Which is really neat. I love the way it understands that context and the audience. Okay, one more question, and then we're going to have to finish up. Yes?
I was wondering, you mentioned training these, I guess, platforms.
Yes.
Who's training them?
Ah.
Who does it?
All right, so what training is exposing the AI to a body of information. Like, let's say I wanted to just go really quick and learn what is the modern encyclopedia that everybody's using and everybody's looking at. So I'm going to go to Wikipedia. I'm going to read the entire Wikipedia and start with that. Okay, the scale of the learning and the speed of it is something we can't comprehend as humans, all right? But remember, the limit that an AI has is it only understands, it's only exposed to human symbols of reality. The way we describe reality. It has nothing to do with reality itself. So it's at a detriment, it's a step behind us. And then it doesn't do things intuitively because it doesn't have the emotional tools, it doesn't have the spiritual tools to do intuition, okay? Or overriding values that are informed by those areas. So we have to be really careful about understanding how it's learning. It's learning by ingesting as much information as it can, and that's where it's being trained, is when it's when it's learning. Once it's being trained, the model then strips off a lot of the information that's there and leaves behind the prescriptive things that it's going to do again and again, okay? So the training thing is really funny. It has to ingest a lot of information, but then it can really pare down things. And if you think about it, that's a lot like us. How many things like our addresses or phone numbers from when we were kids we've forgotten? Okay, because if we don't repeat it or we don't use it, our brain literally pares it and trims it away. Okay, it's a very deciduous environment in our brain. The same thing happens with AI. And why? Because it's being designed by humans, so we're taking very human approaches to learning. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you all, and